Now, year 2024, we do not know what lies behind the year 2024, okay? But everybody wants to be successful in life. We're looking forward that day that all of us can be successful. Now, of course, yeah, this is what most people want, to become successful in life, to live a happy life. Of course, in this fallen world, being successful could be a challenge, right? And this goal for success might not always be easy to attain. There are examples in the Bible, and how do we define success? There's a case of Joseph in Egypt, and that is from prison to the palace. And what about John the Baptist? Was John the Baptist as successful in his career? From prison to the tomb, was he successful? Well, of course, that depends on how you define the word success. Okay? But this morning, I am going to look at, and we are going to look at the idea of success in the context of basic stewardship and financial principles. Because, most people, or majority of people in the world, gauge or measure success by the amount of money you have in your pocket. But of course, it is not a sin to earn money. How you earn money, that's well settle the question. Some, some did that on some illegal ways, but we have proper ways of earning money. So basically, we are going to talk about, the basic stewardship and financial principles. So no matter who we are or where we live, money and finances are going to be a part of our life. It is a part of our lives in this present world. And that is whether we like it or not. But what are some steps, practical steps, that we can take along the way, that although we know these basic principles, we can know these basic principles, but it is not a guarantee for success. Even though we know the right principles, still it is not a guarantee for success. However, these right principles can help us avoid common pitfalls and mistakes that can make financial success a bit more difficult. So still, we need to know and learn basic principles of financial management. The Bible speaks about first things first. As a person grow, thoughts will arise about having to provide our basic needs. What are the basic needs of men? We have food, clothing, and shelter. Okay? As we grow, we tend to look after these kind of things, basically. What shall we wear? What shall we eat? And where should we live? Am I going to build a house, a mansion, or a simple home? So Jesus Christ has taught us to prioritize our needs when he said this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. Above all these plans, on the top of all our priorities, this is the top priorities in our life. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So with this promise, if we believe the promise of Christ, if we believe in the promise of God, we have no reason to be worried because He promised that all these things will be added to us, will be given to us. Okay? For those who are old enough, older, and who didn't make the choice for Jesus in early days, when they were young, there's still time to make the right decisions regarding stewardship. Now let us take, for example, Jacob made his spiritual and financial commitments to God. And you know the story in Genesis chapter 28, that right after Isaac, his father, charged, blessed, and sent Jacob away, the Lord appeared to Jacob in a dream. We know the story about that. While on the way to Haran, that's where the place Jacob has to go. That was his first time to travel home. But he traveled without money. He has only maybe single clothes with him, with a staff, and with water, a jar of water for his long journey. That's how penniless and poor was Jacob at the beginning when he get away from home. And pondering upon the situation of his home and what will be his future, he fell asleep and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth. That is, the base was on the earth and it reached to the top, to heaven. And God talked to Jacob from the top of the ladder. And one of the lines of the promises of God is this: in you and in your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. That was the promise of God to Jacob. Through you, through your seed, even though Jacob was having no wife at the time, no family at all of his own, but God promised him that through you, the whole families of earth would be blessed. How can it be? How can it be? No family, no money. How can he be a blessing to others? But after that dream, he made a vow. He woke up and he made a promise, you know. So Jacob here entered into a bilateral agreement with God. God promised, and he also made a promise, and Jacob vowed a vow saying, if God would be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. This is a bilateral agreement. You know, what do you mean by bilateral agreement? God will do his part, and you also fulfill your part in the agreement. That is a bilateral agreement. And this stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. Returning the tithe to the Lord is an acknowledgement that God will provide all our needs. Do you believe in that? It is not just that we do not enrich God by paying our tithe, because He owns everything. But in our part, that is, we are saying that God will provide all our needs. That is an acknowledgement that God provides our needs and will provide for us more and more in the future. That's what Jacob was implying here. I said Jacob has no money, he has only a staff, and he has only a single piece of cloth with him and a jar of water on his journey. But you know, brethren, and after he made that promise to the Lord took care of Jacob. Of course, he has some experience that we might not like, but yeah, that was the training for him. God still leads Jacob. And from that road, where did God lead Jacob? In Genesis chapter 29, you can read the whole story that Jacob was directed to Rachel at the well. Okay? Unfortunately, also that was the beginning of the acquaintance. And Jacob proposed to marry Rachel, but Laban tricked him, brother Joseph, and Jacob ended up marrying two daughters. Well, you might say that this is an overflowing blessing, but of course, according to the God's arrangement. Okay. So we have to learn some spiritual lessons here, that when we commit a decision to get married, your future spouse should know what they are getting into. Okay? And 2 Corinthians chapter 6, 14 and 15, we have here an important principles to consider when looking for a life partner. But still, I am saying that this is not a guarantee for a good marriage, but it would help make the chances of a good marriage better if we follow this principle. Right? Let us read this one here. 2 Corinthians 6, 14 to 15. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord had Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? So there is a demarcation line between light and darkness, between righteousness and unrighteousness, between Christ and Belial. Okay? So there is no partnership with these two. It is impossible. Can you mix light with darkness? It is impossible. But of course, brethren. So the story of Jacob provides us something better, a spiritual lesson. And Jacob worked, and we can see here in a practical sense that work is a blessing. Is a blessing. Ideally, work is a blessing. As people grow and mature, they will sooner or later need to work for a living. You cannot stay forever in your parents' home, right? How old people here should go out from home? At what age, I mean? 21, some countries 18 legal age. Okay? So look here. Sooner or later we have to go out from our homes, to earn a living, and even those who are wealthy, and even those who inherit beneficiary of a trust fund from their parents, they have to do something, they have to work. Right? So, poor and rich people, they have to work. And it says here in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, at the beginning, after God created man, and the Lord took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. Okay? So the ideal here is that you need to find something that you are passionate. Choose your profession, believe, and master it. Not all can do the same work, but you have to choose your profession, you have to believe, and master that work. And what is the significance of this fact? Even before the entrance of sin, Adam and also Eve has something to do. They were given work by God. And of course, this work in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 that God gave to Adam and Eve is not a punishment for them. No, it is not a punishment for them. It was designed for their good. So even in paradise, even in a world without sin, no death and no suffering, God knows that human beings needed to work. Now this is what it says here. And to Adam was given the work of caring for the garden. The Creator knew that Adam would not be happy without employment. So when we think about paradise, what do we think? People strolling around doing nothing? Eating? No, that is not the picture of paradise that God gave to Adam. Because happiness could not be complete without Adam and Eve doing some work. Okay? So the beauty of the garden delighted him, but this was not enough. He must have labor to call and to exercise the wonderful organs of the body. Our structure, human body, our human organism, they are not made to sit down or to lie down or to be lazy. The human frame, brethren, needs to be exercised. Had happiness consisted in doing nothing, man in his state of holy innocence would have been left unemployed. But he who created man knew what would be for his happiness. And no sooner had he created him than he gave him his appointed work. The promise of future glory and the decree that man must toil for his daily bread came from the same throne. So after the fall, as with everything else, work has been tainted by sin. God said to Adam, after the fall, "Cursed is the ground for thy sake." So God cursed the ground for the sake of Adam and Eve. For the sake of Adam, with the idea that work would be something that he would need, especially as a fallen being. So we inherited that fallen nature, and we need an employment. We need to work. Of course, we need to exercise the same organs of the body, the same human frame that God gave to us and we inherited from Adam and Eve. So there's no time that we should be idle. Now, 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, 8 to 10, "Neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable to any of you." So Paul was a hard-working apostle. Not because we have not power, but to make ourselves an example unto you to follow us. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, what will be the consequence? Neither should he eat. But of course, brethren, in other words, we have to earn our living. We have to earn our food because we cannot rely on anybody else all the time. We have to work. That's the principle that God gave to us. And so, as stated in this verse, those who never had to work found their situation to be a curse. Laziness without work is a curse, but work is always a blessing. Now we establish here that at the age of 18, a person could go out from his home and earn a living. But you have to look at, brethren, you have to count the years. For how long you have to establish yourself, how long you have to earn. Because not although you have to work at the age of 18, but for how long you have to work and then stop working. You know that? Do we consider that? Probably. But the career active phase, the earning years, for how long are we going to earn money? I'll tell you, brethren, approximately for 40 years. Yes, we have to count that from the age of 18 or 20, you have to add 40 years and you retired at 60. So 40 years, the average years that you have to work. Work really hard and smart. We cannot avoid that. Within 40 years, when you leave your home, you have to work for 40 years. That's the average. That's the average years. Those are the earning years of our life. Okay? So, and for many people, this is the time within the 40 years when children are being brought up and educated. So there are many things that happen within the 40 years. You establish your own family, you bear children. And it was a very sensitive time because family is learning to work together. The members are creating lifelong bonds. Financial stress can also wreck the marriage within the 40 years of earning. At this point, and frequently does, families in which both parties have a Christian commitment and are willing to follow biblical principles are much more stable. So for young people here, does anyone here below 18 years old or 20? All right, so we've got a few here. So them should add those earning years, 40 years, and you have to count that. Careful with those 40 years. Well, some of us here are retired already. We passed the age of 60. But look at, brethren, for those who are young, have to look forward to this part here. Now, all right, so we continue that there are some biblical texts that can help us within those 40 years. According to 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he had denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. So in many cases, brethren, the husband is the main breadwinner. Do we still recognize that the man is the breadwinner? Of course. Okay? But nowadays, both spouses has to work. Right or wrong? They both work. Of course, unexpected circumstances that we have to look forward, like sickness, economic downturn, whatever, that make this ideal difficult. And people need then to adjust accordingly. Remember that earning years, 40 years. Okay? How old you are now, Brother Joseph? 38. So you got how many to become 60? You have still 22 years of your remaining earning years. After that, you retire. And definitely, brother, when we get old, we cannot anymore work. So you have to look forward to the time. You have to look forward to the time. Okay? Now, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tended only to penury. Some people can earn money by just talking, But some, they have to work, right? So, and during these times, children are brought up into the world and they are called in Psalms 127, verse 3, these children are the heritage of the Lord. Within those working years, God will give you children, but they are what? Considered to be the heritage of the Lord. What is a heritage? Something that you have to take care of, something that you have to educate. They are entrusted to you to be trained and educated. And we must remember as well that children bring with them an awesome responsibility. The goal of Christian parents is to train their children to become independent adults in this life and to fit them for the life to come. It is wrong for parents to teach their children to rely on them. Yes. We have to train our children to become independent adults. Because not all the time they are with you. You pass away from this world, who remains? Your children. What happens if your children is dependent on you? That's a terrible thing to experience for them. That is why the responsibility of parents is to what? Train their children to become independent adults in this life and fit them for the life to come. Yes. They must learn to stand in their own feet. It's not an easy responsibility of parents, right? And there are things that parents can help their children. Number one here, provide a Christian surroundings. And how do we provide Christian surroundings to our children? How do we provide a Christian surrounding to our children? Okay, that would include family worship at home, regular Sabbath or Sunday school, and church attendance. Those are some of the examples of providing Christian environment for them. And faithfulness, of course, in finances, in tithes and offerings. As we know, the Bible speaks that paying tithes to the Lord is not that we want to enrich the Lord, but that is a recognition that God will provide for our needs. So these are great habits to form in early life. Once you train your children to do so, God will help them and they will become strong someday. The second is teach them to appreciate work and work diligently. Who complain here because there is work? They are doing something. Children should not complain that their parents gave them work. Yes? True or not? Yes, we should not complain. Children should not complain that their parents give them work. Oh, you wash this, you bring this to the laundry or wash your clothes, clean the surrounding. Children should not complain about that because this work will make you strong to bear responsibilities of life. Try to imagine a person who do not know how to cook. Yes. Try to imagine a person who do not know how to wash his clothes, to iron his clothes. Try to imagine that. And do not know how to clean or to make up his bed. Try to imagine that kind of person. But of course, we need to realize that this is a job that must be done. So for young people here, do not complain if your parents, mom and dad, give you work to do. You should be happy to accept that. It will make you strong someday. I tell you, I beat you. Okay? So what else? They have to willing to work. You must be willing to work. You must appreciate. Thank you because I learned this. You know what work that I learned when I was small? My dad told me, all right, separate the breakable from the unbreakable. That's the basic thing that I learned until now I remember. So I have to separate the glass from the spoon, although we have only a few spoons, but you know, I learned to separate the breakable, the plastic, and the steel. Yeah, that's basically that's what I learned when I was small. What about provide a good education? How much you spend if you go to college? How much a person, family could spend when a child goes to college or university? It's not cheap. I remember. I have to remember it's not cheap. But brethren, but remember, it is still important that you have to provide education for your children. Okay? Education is expensive today, particularly private school Christian education. And even when you sit down here, you have to pay. When you sit down here, you have to pay. You have to pay attention. Yes. No free here. No free in this life. When you sit down and talk to somebody else, it's not free because you have to pay attention. I'm yeah. You might smile, but that is true. You have to pay attention. Okay? So So parents with plans for the children, not only for this life, but also for that which is to come, it is well worth the cost. The parents will never sorry about how much he spent for his children to get an education. But these are the basic things that parents should do for their children. And at the end of the day, your children will be happy and you would be filled with joy as well. You know, when you retire, you see that the future of your children is secure and you could rest peacefully. I'm not saying you have to die early, but I mean, you have peace in mind, knowing that your children are in good hands. They have a better future. Another thing here is that we have to work honestly. Honesty is the best policy. God calls his children to a higher standard in work and life. We must have standard when we work. And that standard is in Jeremiah 31, verse 33. The law of God is written in our hearts. That is the highest standard we can have and we can apply in our work. Honesty is always the best policy. And the law of God must be written in our heart. Okay? And reflect in our characters. You know, society erodes and Christian teaching is diluted and minimized. It will become even more important for the Christian to live and work on a level that is above reproach, like Daniel. He worked as a prime minister of Babylonian Empire and also the Persian Empire. But he worked there and he showed in his life that he lived a higher standard of work. The law of God is written in his heart. The Bible says here, let me check here, in Proverbs 22 verse 1, good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. Good name, what is that name? Reputation, your character. People would remember you that such and such and such. What about if the people will remember you that you are a corrupt person, thief, a robber? That is not a good name. But a good name is far above silver and gold. Right? And going back to the story of Jacob, when Jacob decided to leave his father-in-law, because he's been serving Laban for 20 years. He's been serving there for Laban for 20 years. And he decided, I have to go back to my family in the land of Canaan. I have to bring my family, all that I have invested for these years, I have to bring them with me. And you know what Laban said to Jacob? Jacob was a good employee. And Laban said to him, I pray you, if I have found favor in thine eyes, stay. Stay here, don't leave me. For I have learned by experience that the Lord had blessed me for thy sake. You know, an employer will notice your good work. And when the time, if you leave, the employer will say to you, stay, don't leave here. Just continue to work. That's what Jacob experienced. Stay here. The Lord bless me through you. And we have also Joseph. Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt, from being a slave to a prime minister of Egypt. And Potiphar also made an observation about Joseph, his work, and rewarded him accordingly. Well, the Bible does not present a particular methods that Joseph did, but we know that Joseph has been successful and faithful to his master, that he was favored in Egypt. And in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31, whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. In our work and financial management and whatever we do, we should do it all to the glory of God, because He is the one who gives us the knowledge and strength to succeed in life. Do all to the glory of God. And besides that, we need to ask counsel and advice as well. And there are many secular money management gurus, teachers, like if you want advice on how to be successful financially, there are many that can offer you some advice out there. Okay? But God warns us against consulting them. Why? Because of this. Sometimes they give wrong advice. I'm not sure if you could find that they give good advice, but well, the Bible speaks here, give us a warning that we have to be very careful from whom we get the advice. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law that he meditate day and night. So there are many people that would suggest to us wrongfully, but what the Bible says here, blessed is the man that walk not in the counsel of the ungodly. And what will be the end of this? And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Do you believe in this promise? We ought to believe. We must believe. So Jacob, when he separate from his family from the land of Canaan and went to the other country, as I said, he went penniless, with a staff only in his hand. But God blessed him in that country, in that other country. And when he returned home and met his brother Esau, and when his father Isaac died, supposed to be brethren, as the law of inheritance in those times, Jacob should receive double portion of Isaac's wealth. But you know what Jacob did? He did not receive all of them. He gave it all to Esau, his brother, because his brother Esau wanted them. So he gave it. I don't need that. God blessed me so much in this land. So then Isaac inherited those wealth from Abraham. But Jacob never got any portion of that, I tell you. But of course, there is only one that he inherited. And that is you know what is that? Burying place. Yeah, that's the tomb. That's what he inherited from his grandfather Abraham and Isaac. But for the wealth of Abraham and Isaac, he gave it all to Esau. That is a true Israelite, right? Principle that is a true Israelite. And a true Israelite never rely on his strength and his wisdom or in the wealth of others, because God can provide for his needs. So the man who delights in the law of the Lord shall be blessed. How simple is that? And he will prosper. For sure, he will be successful. According here, whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Now let me tell you some, maybe in 5 minutes, but there are 7 of them. The basic financial management, biblical financial management tips. Okay? You must have a systematic arrangement. The Bible says that, be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds, for riches are not forever, and that the crown endure to every generation. You know what happened? If you have house, probably you have wealth today, you have real estate. You know what happened to your property after 100 years? Someone already owned that. Yeah. After 100 years, brethren, the average, after 100 years. What you own today, another person owned that already. So in other words, you have to develop a spending plan. Many families just exist from paycheck to paycheck. Without a simple plan for earning, spending, and saving, life is much more stressful. So you have to remember, systematic arrangement for your earning, for spending, and for your saving. These are 3 basic things you need to do with your money that you earn. Second, live within your means. Live within your means, brethren. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Many families in Western countries, maybe not really, but all over the world, okay, actually spend more than they earn. This is made possible only because of the bank calls. You are chosen to, get a credit card. So why people spend more than what they earn? Because of credit cards, credit institutions. Many problems plague those who are in debt. If you have loans, you have something to pay, there is always, you always live within your, more beyond your limits. So try to what? Try to live within your means. Save a portion from your salary. Go to the ant Thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. What can we learn from the ants? They work and save in rainy seasons, right? Which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provided her meat in the summer and gathered her food in the harvest. That's the ant. They save always. They have always for emergency. So we save to make larger purchases in the future and to take care of unplanned expenses. What are these things that we do not know gonna happen in the future? And what about if you have nothing, no savings at all, no provision for the future? What about if what happened if you involved in the accident or in incidents, serious incidents, an illness? So we save money for the purpose of purchasing larger purchases in the future expenses. Some savings can be used to plan for time when, because of advancing age, we are no longer able to be employed. In other words, when you retire at the age of 60 or 65, you cannot work. So how you going to survive? Your saving will do that for you. Yeah, literally, yeah. Those people who save money for their future, they what? They enjoy that today. But with a credit card, what is that? Enjoy today, pay later. That's credit card. Same with sin. Enjoy today, pay later. That's sin. Yeah. So that is true. Now, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So what is the evil in borrowing money? You always pay the interest. You are not only paying the principal, but you're paying the interest. Right? You always that one. So interest is one expense you can live without. Supposed to be we can live without interest. Why you have to pay extra when you can live within your means? A person or family living with debt, that is on borrowed money, is really living today on money they expect to earn in the future, plus they have to pay interest. If any life changes occur, then serious financial embarrassment can be the result. What do you think? Avoid debt like COVID-19. Yes, we have to realistic, brethren, in these days. Avoid borrowing or debt like COVID-19. Well, I supposed to put like leprosy or any deadly disease, but COVID-19 is popular. It is true, right? We have to avoid that like COVID-19. So that is the case. And what else here? Work hard, but smart. Work hard, but smart. The soul of the sluggard desireth and had nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. We heard always the slogan, work hard. But we can work hard, but you must work smart. Right? And also, be faithful to God financially. Deuteronomy chapter 28, that's what God told to the children of Israel. I just read verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. There will be benefits that we can reap when we follow God's directions. So no family can afford to live without God's blessing. The final here, consider that this world is not our home. Is it true that this world is not our home? And we have to consider that as well. This world is not our home. Although we have to maintain our living here, Jesus said, occupy till I come. But he also said, why you are so stressful? Why are you worrying about these things? But of course, we have to, if we are preparing for Christ to come, we must be preparing as well to live on this earth. For the meantime, of course, we have to maintain. Okay? Some people, because they believe that Jesus would come sooner, they just disregard work. They don't even work. They don't even provide education for their children. I think something is to be adjusted in that particular matter. So where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Our management says a lot where our ultimate priorities are. That is in Matthew 6, verse 21. Where our heart is, there will be your, where your treasure is, there will be your heart. If your heart is in heaven, so we have to work towards that goal. And finally, we have this conclusion, the statement from Ellen White. It says, we need to follow more closely God's plan of life. To do our best in the work that lies nearest. To commit our ways to God. And to watch for the indications of His providence. These are the rules that ensure safe guidance in the choice of an occupation. So we do not know what will be our future. But God knows. That's why He gave us guidance. He gave us His word to lead us on a successful way. The road to success is not easy, but God tells us that this is the way. Walk ye in it. So let us listen to the word of God, and He will surely bless you and your family. My wish and prayer for all of us at the beginning of this year 2024. Amen.